Any particular one, or just the general medallion?
Oh, Bombos is always interesting to see, because I'd always get to go into Ice Palace without the fire rod.
That's good. Well, looks like Navi's telling us, hey... I'm sorry, not Navi. Uncle is telling us, hey, listen.
Uncle Navi, huh?
Why not? So 5 rupees at the start. Probably not enough to buy a medallion with, but you never know.
They're on their way to buying a medallion from the Zora.
So we did get a map check there. Looks like the green pendant was down in Desert Palace, and I think the other 2 were just regular crystals.
I believe that is what I saw as well.
And, surprising hopefully no one, Uncle's holding a sword today.
But unlike in the original Link's Past game, he does not give you a shield to go with that sword. But who needs shields anyway?
That's right. So, if you've just tuned into this, you haven't seen Randomizer before. This is where we take all the items in all the chests of the Link to the Past, shuffle them up, put everything else in spots where it's not normally supposed to be, and then force these racers to complete the game anyways. It's a ton of fun, and we're going to see them go through Hyrule Castle. First off, takes about 6 minutes to get out of that escape sequence.
Yeah, I think Randomizer is probably one of the better ways to play these classic games. Just being able to just add so much replayability.
That's right. Every seed that these runners do certainly feels different from the previous one, as you can get a level 4 sword within 5 minutes, or, you know, be stuck looking for the fire rod for an hour and a half. It's always going to be something different thrown at you.
It's just a new puzzle to solve every time. So one of the things they are going to be looking for in this early escape sequence is they're going to be killing some extra enemies looking for bombs so they can do the backup escape while they're going through.
That's right. At the very end, just before they make it to the sanctuary, there is a row of 3 chests behind a bombable wall. And if they don't collect those chests now, they're going to have to come in back later, and that just wastes some time that they don't want to spend.
Yeah, it's definitely better to get it out of the way while you're going through anyway. The hardest part about routing these randomizers is trying to avoid backtracking in the places you've already been, clearing all the chests in the same area in one go.
Absolutely, we're going to see runners, you know, trying to avoid going into a dungeon they can't beat, just because if they can't beat it, that means they'll have to come back. And it looks like, did Gem just pick up the half magic at the bottom of Escape?
That's what I saw there. So once they find a magic, something to use that magic, they will have plenty of ammo.
That's a great early find, not just because it means magic's easy to use indiscriminately, but because picking up that half magic gives them a full refill. They don't have to worry about not having enough at the very start.
I'm actually kind of curious. Our runners all appear to have different rupee counts. Yukabonk only has 20 less rupees than the other 2, and I'm wondering where that happened.
Great observation. Perhaps a big 20 that an enemy dropped that Yukabonk just didn't pick up.
It's an interesting choice choosing not to grab a 20 rupees this early.
That's right. The runners are looking usually to have about 150 rupees by the time they finish the village area. That way they can buy some bombs if needed. And
Rywek gets a very nice 4-bomb pack off of one of the guards.
Oh, that's a great early find. So as the runners head into the sewers now, and each of them is in here, you'll notice that they all have a free light cone. And if you've been watching these open races, you'll be wondering, hey, why do they have this free light cone in the escape sequence? In standard mode, all the runners get that free light cone for doing escape, just because we don't want to force them to get the lamp that early. The lamp is going to be stuck somewhere out in the rest of the world, and every other dark room, they're not going to have that cone of light.
Yeah, it would be very rude if they were going to make everybody do this in the dark.
That's right, and if we gave them that lamp at the start, then they'd be able to light torches all over the game, and that would ruin a lot of the fun, or, depending on your perspective, annoying routing puzzles that they have to do.
Looks like all 4 of our runners have found their bombs, so they aren't going to have to come back into the escape sequence. Although, we had the power gloves hiding back there. That would, if you couldn't get those, that's the easiest way to get back here either, as well. Having them be there is kind of evil.
Yeah, I think as each runner gets those gloves, they're going to be saying, "Oh, I'm glad I got those bombs." And after 6 minutes, IsntEvenMyFinalForm and Gem are the first 2 out of escape, getting 20 rupees from that sank chest.
So do you think we're going to have some route diversions right now, or are they all going to head over to Kakariko?
I think we're going to see each and every runner head over to Kakariko, take care of that, and probably then do the South Hyrule Mini Moldorm Cave play.
Just once, I want to see somebody do the save and quit back to the house and go straight into the South Hyrule.
Well, Levin, I know you run these races, so maybe it can be you someday.
Maybe. Just maybe.
Looks like the runners are getting 80 rupees from pulling the trees.
Ooh, that is... They are definitely going to have a lot of money. Final Form and Gem are going to go both check, see what we have at the Lumberjacks, see if we can get our first hint that Ag is required, and nope, nothing on there.
And it looks like Rywek skipped that check entirely, doing what we see a lot of runners doing these days, not bothering to check in the Lumberjacks cave until they have boots, and they might even have a chance of getting that item. Instead, finding the hammer in the forest.
Well, some carpenter was going through the forest trying to find some lumber and dropped his hammer.
Well, that's actually a really interesting find so early, because combine that with the Power Glove, now all they need is the Moon Pearl, and they have Dark World access.
That almost kills the Aghanim requirement entirely. The only thing that can make Aghanim required now is Moon Pearl being on the pyramid.
Yeah, that's right, and I know a lot of runners just get really excited at that idea because it means they won't have to waste 4 minutes.
More cutscene bosses are not fun as a runner. Not really fun as a spectator either. They're kind of slow.
That's right. So Rywek is the first runner to head into Kakariko, start picking up items from the usual houses to check. I did see a Master Sword and a blue boomerang of note, as well as a shield.
Yeah, Master Sword means that, well, if they wanted to go spend 6 minutes going and doing Aghanim, they could. But once again, highly doubt it. It also means we don't get to play my favorite game of going through Ganon's tower with only the fighter sword, hoping you find the Master Sword so you can defeat Ganon and not go hunting.
That's a super fun game to watch, and one that, for these runners' sake, I'm glad they don't have to play tonight. So it looks like the bottom of the well has tons and tons of rupees. No other progression for them, but I'd say they're set for money now. That's enough to talk to the bottle vendor and Zora eventually.
I think that is enough for all of the rupee games that are required in Dark World as well.
And that bottle vendor giving you back 20 rupees in exchange for the 100. I've seen worse deals in this game.
Ooh, and a very conveniently located bottle in the chicken hut, so they can just walk right over and show the bottle to the sick kid.
That's right. We see Rywek dipping into this hut here, containing the shop. Going to buy some bombs and max out at 10. This is a really important play because as the runners head into South Hyrule, they're going to need a couple of bombs.
The sick kid just giving away his lunch money. Well, we have some variety of rod. I'm not sure if it was fire or ice.
Looks like that was a fire rod. So these runners now can light torches, can get into that back half of Skull Woods, and if they really need to, can hit into Ice Palace once they get the other items for that. That's an item that eludes a lot of runners, and they're going to be happy to see it this early.
It unlocks a lot of locations, that is for sure.
And as the runners see just a piece of heart at the digging game, I'm sorry, not the digging game, the race game, they're going to exit out of there and head to the south part of Light World.
Looks like Gem is taking the gamble. There will be something at the race game. I'm going to be kind of disappointed. Once again, it looks like we still have all 4 of our runners taking the exact same route, doing the Southern Light World. This is probably the most item-dense location they can access right now. So I
just want to point out the divergence we saw. Final Form went to the back first to drain the Swamp Palace, and Rywek opened that first chest first. That's a huge divergence that we're seeing.
Oh yes, just gigantic.
I kid, of course, as nothing really comes out of this swamp area.
I'd like to take this time to thank our trackers, Recidador and Ms. Metroid. And please take time to follow any and all of these runners if you're enjoying what you're seeing. Like, they're putting on a great show for us today, part of this 100-plus person race.
That's right. All 4 of these runners race fairly frequently and fairly competitively. I know at least a couple of them were in the top few people in the main tournament that's going on now, so they're going to be high quality. As Rywek finds the mirror in Mini Moldorm Cave.
Oh, the mirror being and the boots. Oh, now we have some movement. So this is the point where where runners need to start deciding if they want to start sequence breaking, because with the mirror and the hammer, you can open up the entirety of Light World Death Mountain.
That's right. They don't have the lamp, so they can't go through that dark cave with the old man, but that's only according to the logic. If they're up for it, they're free to just walk through it.
Personally, with how item dense that location is, I like that play. Like, the other option is going into Eastern and checking Sahasrara, but you can't complete Eastern at the moment, so it's kind of a risk going there.
That's very true. Looks like a lot of these runners are going to take those boots and head back down around Lake Hylia, probably doing a fake flipper to Zora.
This is interesting to see because you can't actually get the waterfall fairy chest without the moon probe doing the fake flipper.
That's right. We do see a check of the island, and there's just a single rupee on there. As Rywek checks the bonk rocks and finds 50 rupees.
Let me rephrase that. You can't check that unless your name is Gem and you are using the water walking glitch.
Gem actually making a really clever play in this case, and Rywek's going for that sequence break you mentioned.
Yukabonk is also doing the water walking. Set it up slightly differently. to get it off coming back from the hobo, which I believe had blue mail on it.
Hobo certainly did.
King Zora will sell you a book for 500 rupees. That isn't one expensive book. It better be a collector's edition.
Hey, it translates ancient languages, lets you summon items from the sky with an appropriate amount of prayer. I think 500 rupees is a reasonable price for a book of that power.
And Gem is following the logic of this seed and taking that book straight down to Desert Palace.
Yeah, not a crystal dungeon, but it is the green pendant, and there are 2 items he can pull out of there, so probably going to be worthwhile to some degree.
2 items out of the dungeon, plus the green pendant, plus the ledge item and Agina's cave. So that's a decent chunk of items there.
So, worth noting, we are 16 minutes into this race so far, and every runner is doing something with the sequence break.
I don't believe so. I believe King Zora is in the logic because they have the gloves.
That's very true. That's very true. That Waterfall Fairy was out, but King Zora is totally in.
The Waterfall Fairy had, well, a bunch of trash. People put trash behind waterfalls. It's not very eco-friendly.
So Rywek's up in the Tower of Hera, has found the big key already, so not going to be needing to do the basement just yet.
Ooh, I believe that is everybody's favorite cane hiding on the bonk torch in Desert Palace.
Red cane? Best cane? Very probably.
I disagree it's the best cane, but it's everybody's favorite cane.
So Yukabonk's... Oh, go ahead.
Rywek not wanting to take damage doing the bomb jump over to the Hera big chest. I do not blame him, only having 2 hearts.
That's right. Nothing wrong with taking the conventional or developer-intended route, even if we just flagrantly ignore that most of the time in Randomizer.
And I believe we have 0 items out of Tower of Hera at this point. We might have gotten 1, but I believe basement will be required.
So Gem is going to take on the Land Molus here, and Yukabonk's going to check the right side of Desert Palace before going all the way through to Landmo. I like Gem's play here, where you just finish off the dungeon, and then and only then do you go check for another item. And look at the speed of that kill for Gem.
The quick kill on Landmola with fire and or ice rod is a beautiful thing to watch.
Meanwhile, Rywek took down Moldorm using that hammer very quickly, but Yukabonk, I think, found the real prophet in Desert Palace and has taken off with the Moon Pearl.
Oh, I didn't even see that Moon Pearl there. I guess that is what you get rewarded for following the logic.
Yeah, and so with Moon Pearl, hammer, and gloves, Yukabonk is going to have access to the Dark World, going to be able to break this seed wide open. But instead is going to... Oh no. Going to check the Bonk Rocks and then probably head into the Dark World.
You're right there. Might as well get the Bonk Rocks out of the way. Well, Rywek takes a lunch break here, sitting on the pillars. I think it's kind of bold of Yukabonk to leave the item. I believe they left Agina's cave and the green pendant sitting in Desert Palace. That's like, you might have to come back and get those at some point.
Yeah, certainly a bit of a risk to take, but Yukabonk seems comfortable with it, is going to head straight into the Dark World here. Probably we're going to see a Skull Woods clear and a Thieves Town clear, since Yukabonk, less than 20 minutes in, is already carrying both the hammer and the fire rod.
We do have a map check here. I believe I saw pendants on Thieves Town and Misery Mire, and Skullwoods is Crystal 5 or 6, and I did not catch the other Crystal 5 or 6.
Swamp Palace.
Oh, everybody's favorite dungeon to go mode.
Alright, so Hera, as chat pointed out, didn't have any new items. Yukabonk's going to check on Skullwoods. Gem's going to head down to Hype Cave, and Rywek is doing Spiral Cave. Looks like Ether Medallion is on that floating island in Death Mountain.
Oh, we do not know if that is going to be required. It is likely, though.
And in the good old days of the spring tournament, we called Gem's Cave Hype Cave. Let's see what it has today. A heart container, a red boomerang, 20 rupees.
Nap time cave.
I'm sorry, was there a cave check?
Rywek is checking the current Hype Cave and finds the Ice Rod, which is something that is required. And they still have 5 more chests to check.
Yeah, I'd say Rywek started to find the actual good cave here.
Rest of it, still remains to be seen. We've got some heart containers and some rupees. Yeah, well, I mean, one good item, not the worst.
Meanwhile, Gem is going to take that book and check the Bombos tablet, finding just a heart container there. Yukabonk is making his way through the back half of Skull Woods, going to fight the Mothula with only 6 hearts. But he does have half magic, fire rod, and a bottle.
And Master Sword. Like, if they were on Fighter Sword, this would be more of a risk, I think. But with the Master Sword, I don't think we'll have any problems.
No. And finally seeing a check to the eastern area with Sahasrahla and Eastern Palace. Rywek's going to find 20 rupees, 40 rupees, and a piece of heart.
Yeah, Rywek and Final Form definitely need to make their way down to Desert to get back into this race.
They do, unfortunately for that to happen. They have to make their way to Zora first.
Oh, geez, that is right. I think the main way that this play works out really well for them is if Eastern Palace holds both the gloves and the flute.
That would certainly get them back into Desert area quickly and would put them ahead in some other respects.
Like, just having the flute gets you a large amount of movement. You literally fly through the world.
Quite literally. So Yukabonk takes down Mothula pretty easily with that fire rod. Still has some items to find in Skullwoods and is going to keep checking for them.
Well, that answers the question of will they find desert access in Eastern Palace, as Yukabonk finds the golden gloves in that chest in Skullwoods.
Oh, now, look where Yukabonk's going. He's mirrored, he's heading north, he's got a book.
Do you know what that means?
There's one item that goes boing, 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 and that's the hook shot. If you were hoping for a pedestal seed today, you're in luck.
That makes Gem's decision to clear out Desert Palace look even better.
Oh, absolutely. He's effectively now up a dungeon, as we're going to have to see these runners clear out every single dungeon, get all 3 of those pendants, so that they can pull that item from the pedestal.
This has changed from an any percent run to a all bosses run. All of a sudden, I am very glad that I am commentating this race and not running.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with a nice little pedestal race you have to run, especially when you're in Gem's position and so early into the seed, Yukabonk's position, and so early into the seed, it's a pedestal seed.
It wouldn't surprise me for Gem to make the exact same play.
Oh, no.
Clear out Skullwoods and then go check it, because you're there, that's the best time to check it.
And I'm sure, Gem's beaten Landmolus, has that one pendant already, has to be thinking, was picking that up worthwhile?
Meanwhile, it's looking like Eastern is not paying off at all for our runners that went that way. I believe I saw some rupees, a bottle, and there's an item on Armos.
That's right. No new progression for them here.
Looks like IsntEvenMyFinalForm and Rywek have realized that the place they need to go is Desert Palace.
It definitely is, but they're not headed to Desert Palace. They're headed to Agina's cave. And still not having been to Zora, they don't have that book. They can't get in there.
Is Rywek trying to make a fake flipper here? That is a...
Rywek is setting up a fake flipper. It's a rarer thing, but it's one way to get through a warp, I guess.
I don't think I've ever used that warp. I'm not sure where it takes you. Oh, interesting. So they're going up to Zora. So they're going where they need to go.
Rywek's on the right path here. As Gem finishes up Mothula, going to get Gem's first crystal.
Rywek picking up a potion while they're at the shop.
Hey, with an excess of money like this, why not?
Somebody in chat's asking if people missed the bombs in Escape, they would need to get the gloves in Skullwoods. No, you can go back through the escape sequence afterwards. It's not fun, but you can make it back through. I believe you have to do it in the dark if you're going back.
I don't believe you have to do it in the dark. In Randomizer, they'll give you that light cone still. It's a modification to Randomizer in addition to changing that altar so it stays open. I want to point out, Gem has picked up the Titan Mitts. Gem is going up to check on that pedestal. Boing, boing, boing. Gem knows what kind of game we're in today.
And that information is very useful. It makes you reassess your priorities when it comes to dungeons. Like, a lot of people are not interested in checking pendant dungeons without being able, like, they don't worry about it. They'll go in there, they'll grab the items, get out, but this way they know they have to full clear it.
And I should just point out, for anyone who's not sure, boing, boing, boing does in fact mean the hookshot is on the pedestal. It's a reference to the text when you pick up the hookshot in the original English game, where it says boing, boing, but it is definitely the most cryptic hint as to what could be on the pedestal.
That is a fairly cryptic hint. I got really confused the first time I saw the Bombos medallion on the pedestal, because it says burn, burn, burn in a ring of fire. And I thought that was bombs, or the fire rod.
That's right. Alright, so it looks like Final Form and Rywek are in the desert area. They have those books. They're going where they're supposed to be, while Gem and Yukabonk are finishing up Thieves Town.
So what do you think is going to be the hardest item for these people to locate to get that hook shot?
Well, to get that hook shot, they're going to need to beat Desert, which they have the gear for. They're going to need to beat Thieves Town, which they can already do, and we've seen Yukabonk just finish. But they're also going to need to beat Misery Mire, and that requires a medallion to open. So I'm going to say whichever medallion that is going to elude them for quite some time.
They also need the flute to get in as well. And I really want to see that flute just somewhere hard to access.
Yeah, you know, these runners know quite early that it's a pedestal seed. They have their work laid out for them. I do want them to get stuck on just one thing. Let's make it that flute.
Like that flute being somewhere awkward, like maybe on Trinex.
Oh, you are twisted.
Because currently, other than the medallion and technically the lamp, they have everything they need in order to complete that dungeon.
Alright, so Yukabonk has finished Thieves Town. Is going to clean up some of the overworld stuff that we saw Gem doing earlier. But is also going to turn in the Smith, which I don't believe we've seen yet.
We have not seen the Smith yet, because when Gem was up here, they did not... Well, they weren't actually up here. They did the Southern Dark World.
That's right. Didn't have Titan and Smith.
Yeah.
And for those who are watching this and wondering, well, hookshot's on the pedestal, why does this mean it's a pedestal required seed? Hookshot is needed in 2 places in this game. One is in Swamp Palace to get to the back half. There is no way to do that without the hookshot. And the second is at the top of Aghanim's Tower. I'm sorry, Ganon's Tower. There is a gap that can only really be crossed with the hookshot unless you want to hover, and that's not a skill most runners have.
So you guys going to check the Peg Cave while they're here. Definitely a good idea to knock all these overworld locations out. Wait, they didn't knock down all the pegs. How did they open the... I'm confused. I am very confused. They only knocked down 2 rows of pegs.
Fascinating. Strange. Tricksome. How did Yukabonk do that? Maybe it was already opened.
Oh, one of our trackers is telling us that if you do 2 rows, mirror to the blacksmith, and then do 2 rows again, it unlocks it. That's interesting.
Turns out the game stores the number of pegs you've hit, not has every peg been hit. Always learning new things about this game, and you know, based on what I've seen in the past about how this game is coded, this doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, that doesn't really surprise me either. But that is definitely something new. Things I learned today. I'm guessing it doesn't work with the 3 pegs at Turtle Rock, because those you have to hit in a particular order. But I could be wrong about that. I mean, I was wrong about this, so...
Well, it looks like Gem doesn't know that sneaky trick too, so...
So, while our runners are rehashing things that we have already seen, I'd like to take this time to once again remind anybody who's enjoying the show here to please give any of these runners a follow, and to thank our trackers who are keeping up with multiple diverging routes between these runners.
That's right. And I should point out, we missed this earlier. Looks like the Smiths had the lamp today.
Ah. Instead of making swords, they're making light.
So I guess collecting that lamp puts Rywek and Final Form's sequence break back into the logic. Unfortunately, of course, that Death Mountain play we saw from them didn't really pay off at the time, aside from giving them a crystal. If we see Gem and Yukabonk head up the mountain now, they're going to have a much better time, since they've got the Titan's Bit now.
I don't believe Gem brought the purple chest around, choosing to do the Graveyard Ledge and the King's Tomb, and I'm guessing go over to Catfish. They don't have the flippers, so just these two.
That's right, and Yukabonk has returned to Desert Palace, already has the 2 items out of it, but knows at this point that green medallion is going to be required, or green pendant, I should say. So, figuring I better clean this up while I can.
Clean it up while I'm thinking about it. Looks like there was not much in King's Tomb and the Graveyard Ledge. Gem having some slight difficulty making it back into the Dark World through that portal. Hotaru's asking how many of our runners know it's a Pedestal Seed. Currently, our 2 runners on the left know it is a Pedestal Seed, and I'm guessing Rywek and Final Form will find out shortly after clearing Skullwoods.
Yeah, Rywek's just blasting his way through Skullwoods right now, and I'd be very surprised if he didn't do that ped check. Final Form looks like is also heading there, just a bit behind.
It looks to me like Gem is making their way up the mountain. Gonna do probably both. Do Tower of Hera, do both Light and Dark Death Mountain while they're there.
I like this little play from Gem going back into the Dark World so he has the opportunity to check on the contents of Bumper Cave while passing by it.
Yep, a lot of people also route that in. That's when they do their lumberjack check if they don't do it on their way past to the Lost Woods.
So Yukabonk collects that green crystal, or green pendant. Rywek collects the second crystal, and Gem's gonna head up the mountain.
Rywek is finding out the jig is up.
And Yukabonk finally making that detour to check Agina's cave, something you passed on earlier, but hey, now when you're back in the area, better clear that up.
Better late than never to clear up all these loose ends.
So Gem's going to be able to clear off pretty much all of Death Mountain while he's up here. Just getting some arrows from the Ether Tablet. Gem's going to be able to clear up Tower of Hera, Eastern Death Mountain, Dark World Death Mountain, and with that Ether Medallion Gem's going to pick up. Maybe even a dip into Turtle Rock.
For a second there, I forgot where the Ether Medallion was. It was on Floating Island, correct?
Yeah, just accessed by the back of Hookshot Cave, so not accessible to the first racers who got up here, but Gem having the mitts is going to be able to do it.
Looks like Yukabonk is trailing behind Gem on their way up the mountain.
And final form, going to be the last of our 4 runners to take on Mothula.
So out of these 4 racers, I believe Gem is fairly clearly in the lead. Like, largely because Yukabonk had to take that detour and go back to Desert Palace.
I'm inclined to agree with that. Final form did go back to Desert, or did go through Desert all the way already. So also has that green pendant and has a bit of a boost there.
Yeah, it is still very close between all 4 of these runners.
Ooh, Gem taking the fall at Moldorm.
That is never something you want to see, but it happens to all of us.
If you personally haven't fallen to Moldorm, you haven't played this game enough.
Almost taking another fall there.
Clutch spin attack. Gem's going to take out Moldorm and pick up the second crystal.
I just realized that Final Form, while we were watching that, did quite a few frustration slashes at the pedestal when they found out the jig was up.
Oh, I'm sorry I missed that.
Voolagin is wondering what our pedestal hype index is. Pedestal is required.
Great question in chat. What does standard mean? Is it the same as open? At this point in the race, it is effectively the same as an open mode race that we've seen, going on in the tournament and in every third daily race. Standard just means that at the start of the game, you have that rain state that we're used to seeing in Vanilla Link to the Past. You have to go rescue Zelda first, and Uncle gives you a sword. At this point in the race, no difference is left.
Yukabonk looks like they're having some difficulty setting up the bomb jump there. I think they got a decent spot for it. It should be fine. And yes, Orange Nova, standard guarantees your first sword. See, here's the question. Do you think Gem is going to, if the Ether Medallion opens up Turtle Rock, do you think Gem is going to go in there?
I certainly hope so. We see more and more that when you have that early Turtle Rock open, there's some value in there. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see these runners dip in, certainly for the first couple of rooms, just looking for some sort of value. Without the Ice Rod, they can make it all the way to the end.
And they will have the Ice Rod by the time they get in there. It's in Lightward Death Mountain.
Oh!
But what's going to be interesting is if it's Quake required to get into Turtle Rock, because Yukabonk found Quake out of the purple chest, where Gem did not go turn that in yet.
Oh, that'll be a massive shift in Yukabonk's favor if Quake is required for Turtle Rock. So there's that ice rod for Jim. Now having everything he needs to complete Turtle Rock after getting inside the dungeon, which is still not guaranteed. And we see Final Form checking a ton of the overworld before dipping into Thieves Town. A bit of a surprising play given that, you know, the current meta of the game has a bias towards putting items in dungeons, and Final Form knows they're going to have to complete Thieves Town at some point.
Yeah, he knows that this is an all dungeons run, so you're here, and it's not even like he's lacking any gear. I mean, he's got blue mail, he's got 14 hearts, and he's got a master sword. This should be a fairly simple clear. But it looks like he was just wiping up like the quick overworld around there. And we will find out what medallion is required for Turtle Rock.
Moment of truth.
It is Ether. So they do have access to that.
That's right. I think we're going to see every runner, I would hope, take on Turtle Rock as soon as they get up here. It's completable. You can get through the whole thing. You'll need to do it. And there are potentially 5 items, 6 with Mimic Cave, that could give you something else.
Ooh, and in the Super Bunny Cave in Dark Death Mountain, we have found my favorite cane, the Cane of Brian, and our 3rd sword upgrade. So they are not going to have to do a Master Sword Ganon fight.
Well, I am super excited to see that tempered sword upgrade. That is just the greatest thing they could have found in that cave. I guess they can have a blue cane as well.
I don't know if we can be friends anymore. Oh, and Gem is attempting to hover across Hookshot.
Oh, Gem? Gem? Oh.
Just giving it one solid try.
Certainly worth the shot to do it, but probably not worth your time, given that you know Hookshot is going to be available at the very end of this race. Or at least a lot later than normal.
I'm trying to think of what could be there. The only thing that could be there potentially is the bow. Or bow or flippers.
Yeah, I want to say that the odds of that are very low, and so it's not worth checking. But of course, the odds of a pedestal seed are quite low, and we've seen that already. Rywek having a bit of trouble in the blind fight, going to drink that blue potion, but that should be enough to get him through. And Jim is indeed going to head into Turtle Rock.
And we do have a question from chat. Iceman178 is asking where you can download the tracker that we have here. There are many trackers that you can use for this game. Personally, I'm a big fan of Cross Products Tracker. It has a map that tells you all the items you can do. Also, one of our racers who's on here frequently, Imosaru, was developing her own tracker that does the same functionality.
That's right. There are over half a dozen community-made trackers that different people can use. You can get them all, have a look at them all if you join the Link to the Past Randomizer Discord, and check out the training room for tons of resources, including not just trackers, but guides on how to get started, how to pull off your bomb jumps, how to be a better racer.
And without Hookshot, all of the people in Turtle Rock are going to have to take the slow way around to do this torture room.
Gem, deciding, get some dance practice in, spin around while you can. Spinning's a good trick.
Well, if we were go-moding this Turtle Rock, that would be exactly what you want to see there. But we're gonna full clear it anyway.
Yeah, despite finding the big key early, I don't think these runners are going to want to skip the chests they can skip. So it looks like Final Form and Rywek are both going to return that Smith right away. I'm going to get that lamp, but we do see them being just a bit behind, probably because they made the plays to Eastern Palace earlier, went through all that and didn't come up with anything.
They also do not have to clear Light World Death Mountain, which both Yukabonk and Gem had to do. But the nice thing about finding this lamp is it'll unbreak all of their sequences. They'll be back on track.
That's right. When you sequence break, most runners will have to start keeping track of, okay, what items does the logic not really want me to have right now? And when they find the lamp, they're going to say, okay, we're back in the regular progression.
Oh no, and I don't know if you're paying attention to the SRL chat, but somebody is confused by the boing boing boing, I am guessing. They said they wish there was a text dump of all the possible hints things can say and what they need.
Oh no.
Oh, apparently there is one of those things.
There is. It's part of the source code, which if you are technically inclined, like, say, me, you can in fact read all the source code for this game, figure out how they've randomized it, and learn a few things about the game, and maybe even about yourself.
I wouldn't know what to do with the source code, even if I were looking at it.
Alright, so Gem has made his way all the way up to Mimic Cave, and inside, just a piece of heart, could even be vanilla. Meanwhile, Rywek has turned in the purple chest, and let's see what Isn't Even My Final Form is doing. That looks like a fake flippers, and it's going to take on Ice Palace right now.
Well, that is a play that you can make. If he thinks he's behind in this, like the easiest way to get back into the race if you think you're behind is by making a crazy gamble play with sequence break.
That's right, it's a sequence break to get into the dungeon, but completing it is still possible, especially if you're up for doing some bomb jumps.
And did you catch what Gem just found in Turtle Rock?
I did not.
It was it will allow us to recite the Hylian national anthem.
But Lavin, they've already picked up the book.
Okay, allow them to play the Hylian national anthem.
Fair enough. Well, actually, with 2 medallions already, getting that flute gives them access to the Mire area and potentially even into Misery Mire Dungeon. So we could be seeing Gem picking up that hookshot sooner than we expected. Gem also, it looks like, picked up silver arrows from the laser bridge.
So we are very well equipped to defeat Ganondorf. Or sorry, just Ganon in this version.
Just Ganon. Sadly, no one's playing with the Ganondorf sprite today.
Gem is most likely going to make quick work of Trinex just barely misses the quick kill.
Ooh, gonna get a sprinkle of ice on the floor. Gonna have a slightly harder time with the final phase, but enough hearts and enough skill from Gem as a runner, that's not gonna be a huge issue. And Trinex just holding 20 bucks today.
So outside of the flute and the silver arrows, not much else in Turtle Rock, but I think that is plenty to make this worthwhile.
Flute, silver arrows, and a third crystal? Yeah, probably worth doing.
Looks like while they're up there, Gem is going to go check Spike Cave. Since they can't get into Ganon's Tower quite yet. They're going to go right past it and wish they could go in. But not yet.
Meanwhile, Final Form has been plodding slowly through the Ice Palace, just now starting to get to where we can see some chests. And let's see if he comes up with anything.
I think the best thing that could be here for him is probably Bombos and have it required to get into Mire.
I would agree. You know, a lot of runners like to put off this dungeon until they can do it in Go mode, not having to check any chests. If Final Form ends up full clearing it and doesn't find any value, he's going to know he lost a lot of time there.
Yukabonk is taking the safety exit from Turtle Rock. Their health is a little low for taking on Trinex. I totally understand. All rise for the Hylian national anthem as well.
I'll spare you all my singing.
As will I. Gem heading straight into the Mire area. I want to figure out what medallion is required.
Absolutely. If it's Ether Medallion for Misery Mire, Gem can go in, complete that right now, and get the hook shot. Otherwise, Gem's going to be stuck, maybe hunting until he opens the purple chest.
Did you check what that... Did you catch that on the screen? I didn't.
I'm going to try to get it on the instant replay here. It is Ether Medallion, so Gem has what he needs to get into Misery Mire.
So Gem is currently count them, 2 items away from being in full go mode. They need to find the bow and they need to find the flippers. Since we know exactly where the hook shot is.
So Gem's going to be able to head into Misery Mire, clear it out fully, get 2 items for the efforts, then head to the pedestal. We also haven't seen a turn-in of the green pendant yet, so Sahasrahla could still be holding a required item.
It would not surprise me to see any runner that hasn't been that way yet do the green pendant on their way to Palace of Darkness.
No, absolutely not. Yukabonk has finished Trinex, and it looks like just save and quit out of there rather than heading over to Spike Cave.
That's a gamble that is not the worst gamble to take. It's 1 item, it's relatively out of the way.
That's right. If you skip it at that point, probably not going to see the runner go back and check it anytime soon, but fortunately for Yukabonk, we know there's no value there.
Final Form throwing some fire at Cold Stare, getting a key. I don't believe there was anything of use in Ice Palace.
No, so that will, give him a third crystal, but doesn't really advance his progression, especially not when other runners are going to come into Ice Palace and do it in Go mode later.
Once again, we see these great locations if all you want to do is clear the boss, and it looks like Gem is going to take that gamble, get that big key right there, and go straight back to Vitreous.
Yeah, Gem did already get one item out of this dungeon, the Fire Shield. So if Vitreous is holding the second item, then Gem could be done Misery Mire in the fastest time possible. And it looks like Yukabonk is following that same train, what I'd call the sensible train, and is going to finish that up.
Final Form is making their way up to Turtle Rock and Dark Death Mountain, it looks like. Checking the Ether Tablet on the way, getting some arrows.
So if I were to rank these runners right now, I would probably put Gem in the lead with Yukabonk, next behind, then Rywek, and then Final Form. Now, depending on where the bow ends up appearing, as well as the flippers, we might see those shift still.
Yep, I think the best place for some of these runners to catch back up is for the bow to be in Hookshot Cave. Like, if the bow is in Hookshot Cave, you don't really want to go back up there because you've already cleared everything else up there. So the runners that have already been up Death Mountain aren't going to want to go back.
That's right. Rywek picks up that flute, getting a bit of trouble with the roller spike, but makes it through as Gem only finds a small key at Vitreous, is going to have to go back into the dungeon for a second item.
Do you go back in for the second item, or do you take the gamble that the second item is nothing?
When you still have two items separating you from Go mode, you need both the flippers and the bow. I think Gem's doing the right play where you go in and you search for that item.
Yeah, especially this far into the seed, you can't, if you feel like you're behind, you can make those kind of plays. But I don't think Gem feels like he's behind at this point.
No, Gem has kind of followed the conventional logic here, and it's paid off. Gem hasn't really wasted a lot of time going to unnecessary spots. So I think if you're in Gem's spot, you feel good about your standings right now.
Rywek making their way through Turtle Rock. Had some issues with the maze room there. Had to take out the blue cane to make it through, but they got there. Got their flute, got their silver arrows.
Oh. Gem, forgetting which way the crystal switch is supposed to be sitting, is going to tap that switch. As Yukabonk's making the same play where you just go straight back to Vitreous.
And of course, the second item in Misery Mire is in one of the more out-of-the-way locations to get to.
As it becomes an even more out-of-the-way location, Gem only finding a small key.
Oh, there is the second item. We now have a Riot Shield.
2 shields in Misery Mire. Yeah, that's pretty miserable. So interestingly, Gem not heading for that hookshot pickup just yet. Gonna talk to Sahasrahla and turn in that green pendant first.
I think it's also kind of interesting that Gem isn't going this way in the Dark World. Like, because if you're gonna go this way in the Dark World, you can then open up. You can do this, just mirror over here, and then go open up Pod and do Pod and Eastern, grab all the items from there. Hope there's a bow.
I guess you look at it from Gem's perspective and soon to be Yukabonk's perspective. They can collect the hookshot now, but unless they're going up to Hookshot Cave, the hookshot isn't immediately helpful. They still need the bow or the flippers for their next progression, so it's worthwhile checking those quick chests, seeing if you find a different breadcrumb. And now Gem's saying, yeah, okay. Fine, I'll go pick up your dang hookshot.
Like, with this routing, it looks like Gem might actually be heading just straight up back to Hookshot Cave. Following the wisdom of you don't want to dip into a dungeon you can't complete.
And surprise! Gem has found the hookshot on the pedestal. Great work, Gem.
That was Blind, right? We didn't know it was there.
No. Blind was the boss of Thieves Town. They took care of Blind a long time ago.
Oh, okay. I get confused with all these names.
There are a lot. Gem's going to take that hookshot, looks like head over to Hookshot Cave, as you mentioned. And then, Gem might be stuck going into Palace of Darkness, or Eastern Palace, without the bow, but still likely to find something there.
Rywek making their way out to let loose the goose.
Get some luck from the duck.
I like that one. I haven't heard that one before. Garden in chat wants us to sing. No, we decided earlier we're not going to sing. We're going to spare you that, and we should be grateful.
Especially, I'm not going to sing if the music isn't on the stream. That just makes it worse. Alright, Hookshot Cave for Gem has 50 rupees. 50 more rupees. And a bow!
What's great is that would have, Gem was very close to already having that bow.
That's right, Gem's probably kicking himself right now that he missed that hover just ever so slightly. And had to exit out. But certainly Gem's making the right play. Palace of Darkness now fully clearable.
I think that puts the nail in the coffin for all the rest of our runners, because the flippers have to be in either Eastern or Pod.
That's right. Or, we have that edge case. It might be at a fetch quest behind one of those two dungeons, but importantly, flippers can't be in Ice Palace. Flippers can't be in Swamp Palace. Gem knows not to check those spots and is going to get to go mode, kind of the two most obnoxious dungeons to full clear.
Can you imagine if he would have made that hover earlier?
Certainly would have put Gem in even more of a lead than he's running right now. Now the only question is, are we going to find the flippers in here? Or are the runners going to be sent out in the world doing some sort of evil fetch quest, like digging up the flippers?
Or digging up the mushroom, or digging up the powder, which gives you the mushroom, which gives you the flippers. Or something
Oh, no.
I believe that's as deep as we can go with this. But that would be very annoying.
It certainly would. So, Yukabonk, it looks like, has gone straight to the Palace of Darkness instead of checking Hookshot Cave. Probably the normally correct decision, just playing the odds, but unfortunately with Bow and Hookshot Cave, Yukabonk might get led astray here. Meanwhile, Rywek is about to open Misery Mire, and it looks like he was playing around a bit with that bird just before activating the Ether Medallion.
The question is, what are they going to do with the bird? Did they just want to freeze it there?
Oh, Rywek's trying to pick up the bird, and unfortunately left it lodged on that obstacle. Can only slash it.
I mean, they could have hammered it, but that would require more menuing.
Yeah, and you know, we like to waste a bit of time on that bird, but not too much. And looks like Yukabonk has finished up what's possible there, and is mirroring out, now going into Eastern Palace.
Gem has found the big key and is going to do the same similar routing to what they did in Misery Mire. They're going to clear out the back of Pod, clear the boss, and then go back for the rest of the chests if there's no flippers there.
Great play, especially when you're in go mode. You only need those flippers. You want to clear your crystals up and then say, yeah, if I find the flippers, I can just get out of here. So final form, going to take on Spike Cave as Rywek slowly makes its way through Misery Mire. Probably going to see that same play immediately straight to Vitreous. And final form, going to cash in that flute. Probably do the same play that we've seen each other runner do. That play where you go, yes, I can beat Misery Mire, I better get on that. Interestingly, Rywek is going back into the dungeon instead of going straight to Vitreous.
Looks like Gem is going to have to make their way back into Pod to go check the back chests. But that's not the end of the world.
No, and certainly compared to the other runners, I think we'll see each and every runner clear out Pod fully, looking for that flippers.
I believe Rywek just doesn't want to go back yet. They want to clear everything at once. They aren't super worried about having to go back in. They don't want to do that front room again. It's kind of a waste of time.
It certainly is. Unfortunately, Rywek kind of making the wrong coin flip play in Misery Mire, going to where that second item isn't hiding. And there's Bombos for Jim. Unfortunately, at this point in the race, Bombos actually doesn't open anything up for Jim.
don't remember. Did any of our runners make their way up to Catfish?
I don't think we've seen a single catfish check. I'm not even certain we've seen a pyramid check.
I think we might have seen a pyramid check, but I could be mistaken.
Gem finds the cape. Fortunately, already knows that Bumper Cave doesn't have anything of value, as Yukabonk's going to check that Northern Dark World spot that we saw Gem do earlier. So Gem will be the first runner we see complete Eastern Palace. And I'm not sure if, based on our item counts, if the Armos Knights are still going to have an item. If they do... I'll go ahead.
I believe there is an item left on the Armos Knights. I think
So,
with both the map and the compass.
So it's increasingly looking like that's going to be the way to get to the flippers here.
And some of your chat is confirming that there is an item on Armos. I thought so.
Oh, thanks, chat. Oh, and Yukabonk making a play, going to the back part of the forest. I wonder what Yukabonk's going to pull from the pedestal. Believe it or not, it is not a Master Sword, despite the graphic there. Yukabonk has found the hookshot.
Oh, I thought it was going to be the Master Shovel.
The Master Shovel, for when digging one at a time isn't quite enough. Oh, now it looks like Yukabonk has that hookshot. It's going to head up to Hookshot Cave. That might be all the locations Yukabonk really has available, so good play here, but unfortunately going to leave them behind Gem still.
Yeah, because they went into pot already.
Went into pod, cleared out what they could, and probably at this point just hoping they find the bows so that they don't have the world open up even more.
I don't know, there isn't that much more that can open.
Well, the flippers would open up both Ice Palace and Swamp Palace and, you know, potentially send these runners down the wrong path.
I suppose. But we already know that they have to be either at Catfish, which I don't think we've seen, the Pyramid Ledge, or here at Armos Knights, which we are about to see.
That's right. So Rywek completes Misery Mire. Is going to make that play to pick up the hookshot immediately. And Final Form, still searching through Misery Mire to find that second shield.
Look, Rywek is also going to make their way up to the back of the Lost Woods. I wonder what they are going to find.
Lavin, they're going to find the hookshot.
Oh!
We just saw Yukabonk pull it.
I
I don't know what the confusion is. No.
I get lost. I forget things very quickly.
You know, Hyrule's a very big place. Look at Gem shred those Armos Knights with the silver arrows. There's the flippers!
Ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Hyrule, we have found our way into Go mode.
Hour and about 19 minutes into this seed. Gem is in Go mode, has 2 dungeons left to clear. They are going to be fast.
Yes, this is going to be very quick.
Oh no, and it looks like Rywek is also going to head into Ice Palace at this point. Perhaps didn't actually check the Hookshot Cave? I'm not sure.
Well, actually, Gem isn't heading into Ice Palace. Gem's heading to Swamp Palace first.
Ah, very true.
But at the same time, it doesn't really matter which way you go. Both of these dungeons are incredibly quick.
No, so I'm not sure what happened with Rywek there. I thought Rywek was going to be checking Hookshot Cave from Death Mountain, but apparently not.
That is interesting. But they're going to go see the homeless guy under the bridge get their blue suit.
That is one thing to know about Gem, because Gem got the flippers so late, never did fake flippers. Gem's still running around with a green shirt.
Oh, Final Form took a death. I didn't see it. I'm not sure if it was intentional or not.
It must not have been intentional, because it was a death to Vitreous.
Oh.
Yeah. You know, for most runners, the preferred way of fighting Vitreous is to do so with the bow and the silver arrows. Unfortunately, bow's locked behind Vitreous today.
I mean, they have the silver arrows. They got half of the requirements.
I'm waiting for the Zelda game where you can throw arrows as an item and not need a bow. I'm sure that will be an entertaining and engaging game mechanic. So it looks like Yukabonk is heading to the Armos Knights first. So hasn't completed Palace of Darkness, but is going to get into Go mode in second this race. And Jam skipping pretty much every chest. Even skipping that really, really quick chest in the waterfall room. Not wasting any time, going straight to Argus.
Yeah, they don't need anything. A butter sword would be a luxury item, as would the blue tunic at this point.
I mean, if you don't get hit by anything, you don't really need the green mail. Or better than the green mail.
This is one-hit KO mode, right?
If you treat every game that way, you won't have any problems. So Gem going for the very quick kill on Argus. Let's see if he can land the silver arrow shot. Sounds like it. As Final Form has made their way back to the Vitreous fight, gonna throw down some bomb strats just to damage multiple eyes at once.
Yeah, the other strategy that runners like to use on this is using the cape, but that is also locked behind the hookshot, I believe.
That's a mean, mean hookshot today.
Come on, Final Form, you can do it. He needs some energy, chat. Gotta send him your energy.
The good news is, if the eyes damage him very much, things will still work out, because this isn't even his final form.
And the sword slashes on the eyeball are never fun to see.
As Vitreous goes down to some vigorous stand-in fighting from Isn't Even My Final Form. So Gem is going to be able to take on Ice Palace in Go mode. We're going to see a bomb jump in just a couple of minutes here. Rywek, unfortunately, still looking for that bow, is going to have to do a full clear of this dungeon, like Final Form did earlier.
Yeah, because Rywek, once again, the fake flipper route to get there.
But Yukabonk takes down the Helmasaur King, already has the flippers from doing the Armos Knights, and is going to be able to take on these last two dungeons, Swamp and Ice, in go mode.
Oh, and Gem making the bomb jump and then falling.
Lavin.
What?
I think Final Form found something.
What'd they find?
The hook shot, it's called?
Oh. Also, why are we whispering?
It seemed like a good idea. Oh, looks like Final Form knows exactly what to do with that hookshot. Gonna head straight to Hookshot Cave. Gonna be able to be the third runner to pick up the bow. This might actually put them back ahead of Rywek.
Somebody's asking me what a hookshot is. I think it's like a shot put, except for you put a hook on the end of it.
Oh, like a grappling hook?
Yeah, like a grappling hook.
Oh, okay. I think I saw one of those in a Zelda game once. Final Form narrowly getting through those dead rocks that try to block him from the rock, but don't prevent him from picking that up.
Jeez, and Gem just makes the quickest work of that cold stare. That was very
The quickest of cold stares.
Like, that's got to be the fastest cold stare I have ever seen. Just this quick poke, like those quick poke dashes in.
So, Lavin, how many crystals does Gem have at this point?
10.
10. Well, you're off by about 3, and it's not 13. It is, in fact, 7. And chat, you know what that means. There are 22 possible key locations for the big key in Ganon's Tower. Get your guesses into chat. We're not going to run that tournament bot today because this is just a daily race, but you can still try to guess between 1 and 22. Lavin, if they guess correctly today, what do they win?
That is a very good question. Personally, with all of the Christmas stuff, I am all out of things to give away. Do you have anything lying around?
You know what? I'm happy to give out some of Lavin Firestorm's love and affection to whoever guesses correctly today.
I do still have a lot of that lying around.
Sounds good.
And Cyclone gives us a very good idea for something to give away. We can give away bragging rights for a week, because this is a weekly race and not a daily race.
Oh, I like that plan. We can give away some of your love or affection and some bragging rights. So it looks like Final Form is going to drop off the green pendant at Hazrala on their way to Dark Palace. Not a bad place since they're still searching for flippers, which they'll find in a few minutes here as Yukabonk's blazing through Swamp Palace.
So we're at 1 hour, 30 minutes in. You haven't seen any .duns in the SRL chat. If you're Gem, how do you feel about your placement?
You know, I think you feel pretty good in this case. Because, yeah, you're 90 minutes in, but you're 90 minutes into a pedestal seed where you didn't really go in the wrong direction anytime. Gem's routing has been spectacular today. I think even with those first 2 chests in Ganon's Tower coming up empty, you're thinking, yeah, I might not win this, but I'll be in the top few people.
They have not found a key, so they were definitely not making their way to the right side.
Looks like Final Form actually mirrored into the Light World and is doing Eastern Palace first, so that's going to give them an even better boost to finding the flippers.
So that is 7 chests, and we still have not yet found a big key.
No, plenty of small keys from that Stalfos room.
Number 8 gives us a piece of heart. Gem having some issues with the quick switch there.
And will this will be chest number 9 for Gem. Another small key only, as Final Form picks up those flippers.
Gem heads in what is lovingly referred to as the rando room, as if you're doing a vanilla playthrough of this game, there's not much reason to go into this room. All it has is bombs and arrows.
No, until I started playing Randomizer, I didn't know this room even existed.
Neither did I, actually. And I played a decent amount of this game.
You know, Ganon's got to keep his rupee hoard somewhere.
He also left a little bit of his heart there, too.
So although Rywek's stream, or his restream, is frozen, I did pull up his own stream. I can see that he's heading through Palace of Darkness right now. Doesn't appear to have picked up the bow, unless he stopped marking things on his own tracker.
And we have found the big key in Bob's chest.
Bob's chest. Chest 14, I believe that is. So if you guessed chest 14... congratulations. You win some of Lavin Firestorm's love or his affection.
One of these days we'll find a better prize.
And Yukabonk makes the fall into the Cold Stare fight with Half Magic, with Fire Rod. This is going to be a very quick fight as well, I expect. Corners those puffs on Cold Stare. One gets away. They all get away.
They all get away with less than 2 slashes left on each of them.
So not as clean as Gem's fight, but still cleaning it up nicely.
Gem is working their way through the series of rooms colloquially known as the Gauntlet.
I don't know why we call it that. It's not like there are any gloves in these rooms.
I think it's referring to the other variety of Gauntlet, where you fight a lot of enemies in a row.
That does seem more probable now that you mention it. So for those wondering, we have, in fact, over 100 racers in this race. These are just 4 of the racers we're showing you here. We will let you know if anyone else finishes before these racers, in particular before Gem. But at this point, it is looking like Gem is going to be one of the top racers out of these 100.
This is definitely a very solid gauntlet. That was a thing of beauty to watch.
Absolutely. These runners have done the gauntlet so many times that it just gets down to be muscle memory for them, and it really shows at this point. So just an update from Rywek's end as I check in on his stream that's running. He is visiting Catfish, still has not found that bow, unfortunately. So looks like
we'll get to find out what's a catfish.
It wasn't important. I'm sorry, I looked away.
Oh well.
Gem takes down Trolldorm 2, gets jostled a bit, but doesn't fall.
They do not want to open the last chest in the game either.
I don't blame Gem when you're in this point. You think you might be able to pull a first in the race, you don't stop for anything.
And while we have this going on, one more time, I'd like to remind everybody that if you enjoy what you're seeing, these racers do run a lot of A Link to the Past randomizer. Feel free to give any of them a follow. Also, a shout out to our trackers, Ms. Metroid and Recidador.
Yes, big thanks to both of them for their work on this, keeping all those items updated. You know, there's more than just a few to keep track of. At the same time, big thanks to Feasel and Speed Gaming for hosting this race, and all of the Link to the Past randomizer daily races that we see 3 times a day on Speed Gaming channels. I still can't believe we're doing this.
I can't believe it's not butter.
That's right, it is only the Temperate Sword for Gem.
And somebody in the chat's asking how you get in the seed to join these races. On Speedruns Live, there's a guide to joining the SRL chats, and all of the races are currently run through there. It's an IRC client. You just need an IRC client and the know-how to run this game.
Just some updates from Rywek. He's picked up the bow, and I do want to point out Gem has 1,337 rupees right now. That's pretty special.
I don't understand. Why is that important?
It's an old internet meme. It's at least 10 years old.
Pretty sure it's older than that.
So ACM has finished this race in first place. Gem could still take the second if he survives through this fight. With green mail only, it's going to be a bit spooky, scary.
Dicey.
I don't know what word I was going for.
Spectacular.
Let's go with that. That's 1 arrow down.
And
doesn't quite get off the triple, but Gem does finish off Ganon, and actually finishes this race in second place out of a full 100 runners. So great job to Gem. An incredible race we saw from him, and he's going to finish with an official time of 1 hour, 38 minutes, and 52 seconds. GG.
And if I recall correctly from the main tournament, yeah, Gem will be very interested in popping in here for an interview.
I look forward to hearing some thoughts about this race with the forced late trip to Hookshot Cave for that bow. And Problems IRL has finished this race in third place with a time of 1 hour, 39 minutes, 20 seconds. Not on this restream, but great job to Problems.
as Yukabonk makes their way through the gauntlet, make up to the gauntlet. So
Congrats to Gerdo, finishing in 4th.
So do you think we're going to have a top 10 time here out of Yukabonk?
You know, we might still see that happen. Yukabonk and Gem both had a great boost by going early to Zora, figuring out before most runners this was a Ped seed. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Yukabonk still pull off a top 10 finish. And we're going to bring Gem in here. Gem, Pedestal seed in under an hour and 40 minutes, 2nd place in a field of over 400. Congratulations. How are you feeling right now?
Pretty good, I guess. Yeah,
Over 400.
Sorry?
Wait, Fireline, over 400? You mean over 100?
Over 100. My gosh, there were not 400 people in this race. That would be something to see.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, this stage was pretty interesting. It was very linear.
So, do you know what gave you a bunch of time save on a couple of our other runners?
Well, I guess checking pet pretty early, going back to hookshot cave basically right after the hookshot, I guess.
Those are the two things. The biggest thing, I think, is you followed the logic and didn't do any sequence breaks.
Yeah. Yeah, in this race, or like this seed, like it was just super linear. So, I mean, I felt like it might have been smarter, quote unquote, to like go to port or EP after getting the hookshot, just because there's so many more locations where either bow or the flippers could be. But considering how the seed had been until then, I just went hookshot cave because I assumed the bow would be there, or like bow of flippers.
Well, and of the runners we saw, you were the quickest one to make that call and kind of picked up the bow soonest after getting hookshot.
Yeah.
You came very close to getting that bow even earlier.
Oh man, I was thinking about that. Yeah, but I'm not good at hovering, so I usually just try once, and if I fail, then I just move on.
I have to say, getting across that gap even halfway is better than most runners can ever do. So, good effort there.
Yeah, it would have been nice. Would have saved probably like 2 minutes or so.
From my understanding is once you get to that chest there, you can just bonk to the other ones, correct?
No, you can only bonk to the one above it. The top right chest you have to hover to as well.
Okay.
And yeah, I still have to actually pull that in a race.
You came close.
You did come close, but in general, following the logic paid off for you. We saw some other runners sequence break up to Death Mountain, and right at the start of the race, and then get a bit distracted up there, having to double dip East Death Mountain. And we saw some runners fake flipper into Ice Palace, which you were able to just do in go mode.
Yeah, if Swamp is Crystal, I just like fake flipping into IP. Because you need to fight the flippers anyway, and then they might be go mode, and you might just be able to go mode IP.
Very sound routing that certainly gave you a huge boost in time in this race. We do see Yukabonk now dropping into the Ganon fight. Sonicam just finished in 8th, JSR2 Gamers just finished in 9th place. So that 10th place spot is still available, and Yukabonk might just pull it off.
Oh, and Zyrek has killed that dream, finishing in 10th place.
Oh, I'm sorry, Yuka. Jem, you were playing in the main tournament. That was an open mode tournament. This might be, the first big standard race a lot of people have seen in several months. Do you do anything differently for standard races than you do preparing for an open race?
Not really. I guess I just don't go back into escape.
I should hope not.
Yeah. Usually when I play standard, I think about it and then I'm like, no, I'm done.
So between the two modes, do you have a preference?
Not really. I think they're pretty much the same. It's just in one you go to Kakariko first, and in the other you go into escape first, and that's pretty much it. The nice thing about standard, I guess, is that you usually don't have to hope for resources on your way to Kakariko, because the odds of getting something are pretty high. Whereas in the open mode, you're pretty RNG dependent.
That's absolutely a difference, and it is why we suggest a lot of players start on standard, just to not have to worry about that resource management. I want to check in with other finishers. Ozapone, 12th place, Buehin, 13th place, and Yukabonk, 14th place overall.
It looks like Yukabonk will be making their way in here shortly. Probably just grabbing some water or something.
And along the way, Final Form has picked up the big key, is taking out Landmole, is going to continue climbing Ganon's tower. And an update from Rywek's end, just going into Swamp Palace now, of course, having already cleared Ice Palace. So we're going to have Yukabonk join us for a quick interview. We will be switching after this over to a Mega Man relay race, because there's always more fun on speed gaming.
If you are ever interested in what's going on the speed gaming servers, they have their own Discord server right now. That's where all of the planning for these daily races are. They're also running all kinds of other events going on, like this Mega Man, Super Mario Odyssey. Anything you would like to watch, they'll probably have it here at some point.
That's right. Stay tuned to Speed Gaming for essentially any speed gaming, any speed runs that you want to see. You can find some entry to that community through Speed Gaming. And looks like Yukabonk's in the waiting room. We're going to pull them in. Yukabonk, congratulations, 14th place.
GG.
Yeah, so how did I do among the 4 that was restreamed?
You were second.
I'll take that.
Yeah, Final Form is just entering the Ega 2 fight right now, and Rywek is just finishing up Swamp Palace. So, fairly good stratification between the 4 of you, and you were in the top half of that.
Wow. Yeah, when I consider myself kind of a mid-tier player. My execution's not nearly as good as a lot of these better players, so some of the things I don't hope for in races is early boots and pedestal seeds.
I'm sorry.
So I'm actually pretty happy with how I did.
Yeah, 14th out of 100 is nothing to sniff at. Great job on that.
Yeah, and what's funny is I felt like my routing kind of all the items kind of fell in my lap, and so part in the run where I kind of felt like I don't know what to do was when I left Mire. And I was still looking for the bow and the flippers. And I was thinking, do I go into out in Eastern looking for the flippers? Do I go into I was looking for the bow, or do I go to Death Mountain, which only has a couple items and takes a while to get to? And I was seriously considering going to Death Mountain. And had I done that, I would have finished quite a bit.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just a coin flip that didn't quite work out this time.
Yeah. Overall, everything else kind of fell in place for me this run.
It was a fairly straightforward route.
Fairly straightforward, and on this restream we saw both you and Jem go straight for that book, which led you into desert, and you were able to follow that trail, whereas our other two runners didn't get that early book and were kind of a bit lost until that fell into place.
Oh, I see. Yeah, see, for me, it wasn't just the book, but it was the fact that I got Fire Rod and the lift upgrade and the boots and the book. Basically, it was giving me everything to fully complete the dungeon. So I'm like, okay, I know it's a pendant, but it's green pendant, so I get an extra one out of there. So yeah, I decided to go straight there.
Well, for the most part, that did pay off for you. Nicely done. And yes, everyone did indeed find the arrows in Turtle Rock. Thank you, Ganon, for that little tip. So we are going to be shifting over to the Mega Man X relay races just as soon as Final Form finishes. Yukabonk, Jem, do you have any final thoughts on this seed before we sign off?
More early boots, I like it.
Thanks for restreaming me, and hopefully I was able to put on a good show for you guys.
Most definitely. And with that final arrow into Ganon, Final Form is finishing with an SRL time of 1 hour, 52 minutes, and 39 seconds in 29th place.
So again, great work from these runners. Thanks to all four of our runners for agreeing to be restreamed today.
Yeah, feel free, if you enjoyed what you saw here, feel free to give any and all of these runners a follow. And thank you very much once again to our trackers, Miss Metroid and Recitador.
And again, thanks to Feasel and all of Speed Gaming for the great work you do here. If you stick around on this channel, you will see a great relay race of Mega Man X 1 through 4. If you come back at 8 Eastern tonight, you will see another Link to the Past Randomizer daily race. Until then, until next time, I've been Philian. I'm going to give Lavin Firestorm, my co-commentator, the final word.
Yeah, it's always fun commentating. Hopefully I will see you guys around. See you in the race channels.